Hello, everybody, and welcome to our continuing coverage of Day 3 of MUFON Symposium here in Covington, Kentucky. We have with us our amazing friend, Sev Tok, who is one of the leads of the MUFON Experiencer Resource Team, an experiencer herself. So how have you been enjoying MUFON Symposium this year, Sev?
It's wonderful. Not only am I learning a lot knowledge-wise, 3D-wise, but there's some connections that are being made with people that on a really high spiritual level.
It's been great.
I feel like I'm buzzing.
Yeah, the energy around the last couple days has really been intensely awesome. It really has been. Hearing people swap and share stories, swap and share data, talking after the speakers, things like that.
It's been the connections that you're making with the people around.
Oh, absolutely.
Here.
It's been fantastic.
It's like from the heart.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful.
It's great. And that is one of the things that I love about this community is it is so beautifully accepting of people, their stories, their experience. Because that is where it starts with MUFON, is with an experiencer report, with tell us about your experience. How did your experience come to you, Sev?
Which one?
Your first experience.
When I was 10.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if that was my first experience, but it's my first conscious experience from 10 to 12. And I was living in a suburb of D.C., Washington, D.C. And at night, I would find myself outside looking up, and there would be a spaceship coming. And each time it came from a different direction. And it happened so many times that I lost count. And it would come, and it would hover right over my head. And it was so big that I couldn't see the stars. And I was so happy, because it was like I was seeing a relative.
Wow.
And then it would land, and stairs would descend, and this being would come down, and he looked more human than not, had dark hair, a dark outfit. His ears were just slightly elongated, but not like Spock. And he was checking up on me.
Interesting. And that was the first conscious visit that you remember. You had numerous visits through your childhood.
Yes. That's the first one I remember.
Yeah. Now, how did it go for you from experience like that to the opposite side of the experiencer coin, where fear came into it?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because I didn't fear that being.
Yeah, exactly.
And after he visited me for 2 years, there was a final visit, and this time it was with a bunch of other kids. And we were watching him go away, and we were really sad because we knew we weren't going to see him anymore. And I heard in my head, okay, it's time to do your work. And as a 12-year-old, I had no idea what that meant. And when I would pop back into my bedroom, I was really confused because my bedroom and my life there felt fake. And my relationship with my space brother felt real. And then I would just tell myself, just forget about it and just get dressed and go to 5th grade.
Yeah,
and
just
try
move
and
on.
be normal.
How'd that work out for you?
Oh, well, it caused decades of unhappiness and issues and problems.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is the experiencer story that I hear very frequently, is the trying to push the experience away tends to lead people down a different path.
Yeah. So to answer your question, how did it flip from being a pleasant experience to one where I was fearful? The first time I was afraid, really, was the first time I saw a gray.
Okay.
Because they can be scary because they don't, the shorter ones, the littlest ones, they don't emit emotion. So that's scary for us.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
And so that's when my fear started.
Okay.
But I've lost that fear. I see now they were helping me.
Okay. Yeah, and we've talked about that numerous times on the show, the catharsis that you went through and the point of peace that you came to with your experience. I think that is such an important reason why you are a part of the Experiencer Resource Team. Let's get into the ERT a little bit and their involvement with MUFON cases.
Well, the ERT stands for the Experiencer Resource Team, and there's about 70, 75 of us around the world, and we deal only with people who've made direct contact with an ET or non-human intelligence. And it's really amazing work.
Yeah.
Because we are privileged enough to get the information that the ETs are giving these people, and information, scientific information, information about the hybridization program, information about self-empowerment and spirituality, information about mankind's possible fate, and also information on how to strengthen your psi abilities or your psychic abilities. And so we are privy to this amazing information, and this information is coming to help us individually and to help mankind.
Yeah, yeah, and the numerous messages that have been received by experiencers, it's interesting to see the many unified messages that are out there. Everybody gets a different experience, but so many of the messages that they come back with are unified in their source. Where do you guys, as the Experiencer Resource Team, begin with gathering that information with somebody? How do you begin making them comfortable enough to share that very intricate and detailed information about what an ET may have shared with them?
Well, those of us who are in the ERT are experienced. We're specialized in dealing with this. And the person goes to the MUFON.com, someone who's made ET contact, and clicks on this red button in the upper right-hand corner, and then fills out a questionnaire. And then our director, Dr. George Medich, gets the questionnaire, and then he assigns it to someone. And then when I get a case, I email the person introducing myself, commenting on their story, asking them a few questions, and then when they respond, then I take it a little further and ask them if they want to talk.
Okay.
And they almost always want to talk via Zoom or telephone.
Okay. And now, y'all had a huge panel the other morning with the ERT. How did that go?
It was wonderful. Oh my gosh, I'm still glowing from it. Yeah, the room was packed, and I gave a talk, and then we had Yvonne Smith and Earl Grey and Dr. George Medich on a panel, and we had a Q&A for an hour and a half, and it was fantastic. Fantastic. Wow. And I shared stories about 3 ERT cases that I investigated from North Carolina, because I live in North Carolina. Yeah. And one of them really sticks out to me. It's by a young lady who was shown an image by the Greys. She was shown an image of Earth from a distance. And on Earth were these little points of like twinkling lights, white light, and they were all connected by a grid. And the Greys told her, every time a human being has a spiritual awakening, they twinkle, and we can see them.
Interesting.
Because their vibration rises so high that it goes above the lower vibratory energy that surrounds Earth, and then they can see them. And they say that it's important for us to so-called awaken, or to raise our frequency and our vibration, to help each other and to help mankind.
Wow.
And to also one day reconnect with our galactic brothers and sisters. That's the whole point of why they're communicating with us, so we can re-enter that whole world.
Yeah, precisely.
Because we live in a neighborhood and we don't realize it.
Yep. And the example I've been giving on the show this weekend is so many experiencers have told me that after their experience, it was like they were pulled out of a box. And they never realized that they were living life inside of this box before. It was such a limited view of what was outside of that box until they were removed from it. and it opened them up to a whole new world of possibilities, a whole new way to live life, a whole new way to connect with the world around them.
Yes, it broadens your perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it also strengthens your psychic abilities. You become more intuitive. And when you become more intuitive, it's easier to make decisions. It's easier to make the right decisions. It's easier to meet the right people. It's easier to be successful and happier and healthier and all of that.
Yeah.
When
Precisely.
you're able to plug into this high frequency information that floats around us and then use it to your individual benefit and to our collective benefit.
Yeah, precisely. And understanding your place within that system. You know, I consider it kind of like a molecule myself, and being an atom.
That's a good analogy.
If I remove myself, that molecule is totally different now. It's totally different.
I like it.
And we are very much the same way. We attract and repel each other and build beautiful things together, you know. But unless it's a cooperation between 2 parts of hydrogen and 1 part of oxygen, we have zero ocean. There has to be a cooperation between those things and an agreement
And alignment.
that this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to make water now. You know? If we invited carbon into the mix, we'd have sugar pretty quick, you know? Like, so yeah, we have to consider what we are surrounding ourselves by, and even experiencers, what you are surrounding yourself by and letting yourself be influenced by, because there are numerous people out there, sadly, Sev, who want to try to make people's revelatory experiences negative. I saw that a couple times, and I'm not too partial to it. I don't understand where that comes from. I find that a hard mentality to accept.
Fear.
Yeah,
Just
I think
afraid
so.
of the truth.
Yeah. And you know, we've talked about that so many times, not only being afraid of the truth, but that want of confirmation that we have in society and personally, you know, of even when you're an experiencer, just to find another experiencer to confirm the fact that you're not crazy.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
That's so important.
and that is why I recommend everybody. Like, I have a very good friend and guest who comes on the show, Father James Cloud. He witnessed something in 1973 in Michigan when he was a kid, and just recently made his MUFON report, like within the last year.
That is happening a lot. We're getting a lot of historic cases from 10, 20, 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Because of the congressional hearings. And so now people are like, oh, I'm going to contact you because now it's on TV. And
A lot of the
I'm not
stigma
afraid
has been
anymore.
dropped. A lot of the stigma has been dropped, and it's been beautiful to see that, and beautiful to see the number of people that are coming forward with their experiences. You know, I mean, even we had Irina Scott on earlier talking about the Pascagoula case. It wasn't until the last couple of years that Calvin Parker came forward with his side of the story. You know, that's been since like 1973 and affected his life, all kinds of things. So, yeah. The conversation has changed people's approach to it and changed people's acceptance of even what has happened in their own life. So
Yes. And it's a wonderful thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because this is a very historic moment.
Yeah.
And so what are we going to do with it?
And
Which way are we going to go?
that's really the big tater question, you know, because now we got a potato and it's baked and it's kind of hot. What are we going to do with it now? You know, and with everything happening in the field of research right now, with the science literally changing, it's remarkable to see just since the first congressional hearings, the path of technology that has come out, things like the Lockheed Martin nuclear reactor that fits inside of an F-16, stuff like that, where it's like, curious. They've said for years it would take the power of a nuclear reactor to make physics happen like that. Well, we have it. So yeah, last year was the big question, friend or foe 1.0. How has the media treated things? And now it's friend or foe 2.0. How are we treating it? how are we accepting it in society, and how is the government putting a lens of focus on things? And they definitely in the last hearings came out with the fact of, yes, we have some concerning issues with our training airspace. We have some concerning issues with civilian airspace, things like that. Where do you fall in the question of friend or foe, Sev?
Oh, friend. They've been friends to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I can just speak from my own personal experience, but they've changed my life for the better.
Well, and that's even after your fearful experience and going through and processing that yourself with the help of good folks like Kathleen Barden and everything else to come to a point of realization that you were viewing that through a very specific lens in your life.
Yeah, because I used to think they were foes. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
And
mean,
so I completely changed.
well, you came back with physical marks on your body, things like that.
That's
so
what did it.
It's
That's what I needed to wake up.
wow.
Because I was in denial for 40 years over everything that happened to
Wow.
me. Every mark I had on my body, I would just either ignore or try and explain away. The lights, I could feel beings in my room touching me, everything. I just ignored everything. But those X's made me say to myself, oh no, I cannot ignore this, which means everything that's been happening to me for 40 years is real. And it's like, what? How can I deal with that? And so I went into this existential crisis
Yeah. Yeah.
because I didn't know who I was anymore. And I didn't know who we were as a human collective. I didn't know who we were and what we were doing. Where
Yeah.
did we come from? And why am I talking to aliens in the middle of the night? And I didn't know anything.
Oh yeah, and it's enough to shake your whole world foundation. It's enough to either strengthen or destroy your faith in higher powers, other things.
And then you have no one to talk to about
Yeah.
it. And then you're trying to go to work and, trying to be a good mother, trying to be a good father. You're just trying to be a good person. But in the same time, in the back of your head, you're like freaking out.
yeah.
And it's a private freak out, which is the worst.
yeah. It's not one that you can share over coffee with a friend, things like that. And unfortunately, now you have the network of friends to be able to share that with.
Yeah.
You have a network of people, other experiencers that you can go to and talk about your experience, even if something else pops up that may be bugging you about it. And that's a beautiful thing. That's what I love about the ERTs, the fact that, yes, MUFON is about the nuts and bolts. They're about the science of UFO, UAP study. But it starts with a statement, and it starts with an experience. And until proven otherwise, they will follow the trail of your experience. And if it comes to the point of, we think you need to talk to somebody on the Experiencer Resource Team, that is where they send you. If it's the part of, we think that there's enough from your witness statement and there's enough other evidence that corroborates that we think we need to send a STAR team out to get soil samples, radiological samples, things like that. There are different branches of MUFON that are there not only for the intake process, but for the sifting of that information and how to disseminate that information and treat each case individually. It's great.
Also in the ERT, we're very different from field investigators in that we're not really investigating.
No.
And we're not determining whether someone's abduction is real or not.
Nope.
That is not our role. Our role is to listen.
That's right.
And offer guidance. And if you need some extra help from a regression therapist or a psychologist.
a Bud Hopkins or someone
we have
like that.
vetted people that we can suggest to you.
Yeah, good
And
folks
so
like
that's all.
Yvonne
So,
Smith.
Yeah, so if anyone's afraid of telling us about our ET contact because they think we're going to prove them wrong, we do not do that.
Yeah.
We do not judge.
Yeah. That is the beautiful, beautiful thing is I have, amongst the community that is here, that is MUFON, I have not seen a single point of judgment amongst any person from MUFON about anybody's story, about anybody's encounter, about anybody's sighting.
Yeah.
And that is the beautiful thing.
And it's refreshing because there's so much judgment in our society. It's nothing but judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's how we're controlled.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And it keeps us, we've had the conversation so many times, Sev, how it keeps us in a state of discombobulation, not only personally, but as a society. You know, the infrared ultraviolet concept of us versus them, the tribalism of things. And we have definitely followed that rabbit hole here in America over the last many years of an us versus them mentality. And even right now amongst the UFO UAP community to see some of the us versus them mentality that's going on, like the crazy people that are threatening NASA scientists just before a NASA panel and emailing them and harassing them and, oh, you've been hiding this for years. It's like, that's funny. I've been a NASA scientist for 5 years. What do you mean I've been a part of this lie my whole life? Like, no, that's not the case. And they even addressed that at the beginning of their panel. The fact of like, hey, you know, emailing scientists and harassing them about being involved with the topic doesn't help get scientists involved with the topic.
Well, that's what Avi Loeb was saying.
Yeah.
Because Avi Loeb was a speaker here yesterday, and he was saying that he gets a lot of criticism from fellow scientists.
I will bet he does. And once
he's a threat.
Oh,
to
yeah.
them.
Yeah. Most definitely.
He thinks it various reasons, one being jealousy, and the other, those scientists may be thinking that he's going to outdo them, and then maybe they're not going to be as important as they think they are, or maybe all the work they're doing is wrong. And it just keeps going.
That is the source of a lot of it, Sev, is the fact of people with commas and letters behind their name have written books. They've contributed to curricula, all this. And it's the fact that they're entrenched professors. What's the last 20 years of my career? If this proves all of that wrong.
Right.
If
but isn't that what being a scientist is all about?
Exactly what the NASA panel said.
You have to change your mind as a scientist.
I have said it for so long on this show. I don't think I would ever pay for 95 to 97% of a wall. Because there's a 3 to 5% ratio of anomaly. Science is only looking at what they've already proved. So you're giving me 75% of a wall, dude. Like, I paid you for a full wall. You're telling me that 95% is a full wall.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think
that's a good way to
I don't
put it.
think I would have passed chemistry with a 5% remainder in the equation. Did it go to gas, solid, solution? What happened to it?
Oh, you're
what happened
back
to it?
memories.
You know,
Yeah.
We wouldn't have passed chemistry, Sev. It wouldn't have happened because we couldn't prove the 3 to 5% remainder. And that's exactly what, I forget the nice lady scientist who said it, but she was like, we have been woefully disregarding our duties as scientists. Our duties as scientists is not to continue proving the known quantitative. It is to find out what that 3 to 5% remainder is.
And that was a lady?
Yeah. Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful to watch. Like, oh, my heart just burst open when I heard it. It was like, thank you, God. Because quite literally, even the concept of Grush in his testimony, using the idea of NHI, it expands the definition.
I could not believe he said that.
It was beautiful.
I was so happy.
It was so beautiful. Same.
So,
Same.
in case
why were you so happy, Seth? Please.
We're talking about in the recent congressional hearing, Grush, the whistleblower, and there was a Congresswoman Luna from Florida who asked him, "Why do you use NHI instead of ET?" NHI, non-human intelligence.
Yeah.
And he said, well, because I just want to remain open-minded about where these beings are from, because maybe they're not off-planet. Maybe they live in another dimension that we don't know about, and they're on planet, and they're bilocating. And my head exploded. I was like, I cannot believe he just said that.
I literally jumped up and cheered. I literally jumped up and clapped in my living room by myself.
It was amazing.
It was beautiful.
So I thought, okay, people are going to be talking about this. This is going to be big. No one said a word. I feel like I'm the only one that talks about it.
The only word I've heard is people who were ticked off that he didn't use the term extraterrestrial. Literally. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
people who were seeing it.
He's not denying their existence.
No. What he's doing is opening a beautiful portal of investigation and exploration on the topic.
Unbelievable.
Because as soon as you say ET, no different than using, and we've had the conversation before, using the word UFO out of context. No, let's leave it to exactly what that definition It is an object in the sky flying that you don't know what it is.
Right.
We don't have to immediately jump to it being alien.
Right.
We don't. That is unscientific to immediately jump to it being alien. And by him taking that NHI term and pulling it out of the box opens up a whole new panoply of investigation, whole new panoply of science to look at, because as soon as you say, we're looking at aliens, you've put the topic inside of a box no different than every scientist who said it wasn't science.
Right. Right.
You've just put
Guilty
it inside
of
of
the
a
very
container.
same thing,
You're
yes.
guilty of the exact same thing. You have diminutized what we can look at and how we can study it. Because now it only has to be alien.
Yeah, and he completely...
He blew the doors off that. It was awesome because,
So
I have
now I'm
held...
waiting to hear more about
I have
that.
held for the longest time that, yes, much like the work of extratemporal model, that is exactly what this book is about, is the idea that in the model, Dr. Masters posits that UFOs and aliens are our future human descendants coming back through time to visit and study their own hominin evolutionary past. Absolutely. Totally a possibility. Could utterly be us coming back and see what we did to jack things up and how can we fix it. It could be us from a parallel Earth. All of these are still extraterrestrial. They are still outside of this Earth. So they still fit inside of the extraterrestrial definition. Unfortunately, our minds have taken extraterrestrial to the point of Kleenex and Xerox, where everything in a box that you wipe stuff down with is a Kleenex. No, it's a tissue. It's this, it's that. It's for different purposes.
Yeah.
It's not just called a Kleenex. And we've been using UFO and extraterrestrial as Kleenex for way too long.
That's a very good point.
Way too long. It's become a catch-all bin, and unfortunately that has stymied a lot of the science with it being a catch-all bin, because how can you get a niche scientist? How can you get somebody involved in this field if it's just a catch-all? You know?
Right. It's hard. It's a battle, and a lot of people don't want to engage in that battle.
Yeah.
Like what Avi Loeb is doing. He's in a battle.
Oh,
And
God,
the
I
fact
want
that
to
he's
interview
doing
that
it-
man
yeah.
so bad. So bad. Because even the idea of a Muamua being just a passing probe.
That was
once
brave.
again,
That was
it
brave
doesn't
to say
have to
that.
be a critter in a machine. It could be a probe that goes by and gathering stuff. Is that any less intelligent than any one of our automated drones?
Yes. Right.
You know? No, absolutely not. We use automated drones to go get information all the time on this
but
planet.
our drones look like, child's play compared to Oumuamua.
Oumuamua was very much like, it looked just like a big rock.
Yeah.
And, the funny thing is, you don't need things to be aerodynamic to float in zero gravity in space. There's no air for resistance. So, yeah, if you want a Borg cube to fly through the air in space, you could do it. There's no drag. There's no drag. So the odd shape and everything else, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That could be just what it looks like after years and years. That could be what it was constructed for in that way to begin with, so that it doesn't attract attention. One of the interesting concepts I came across at the Remote Viewing Association conference, a very, very well-known remote viewer was telling me that, yes, there is a reverse engineering program, absolutely, but it's not necessarily what we think. It's the fact that the Greys, being the hive mind that they are, have evolved themselves past the point of emotion.
Why do you say hive mind?
Well, because that tends to be a lot of the story that you hear is
'Cause
that
they're robotic?
that they're kind of
I know, but bees are amazing and hives are glorious.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Here's the thing. In that search for their own perfection, they genetically engineered out creativity, individuality, things like that, to be part of that hive mind. This is my task. This is what I accomplish. I am a drone bee. I go out and I do this.
Okay,
That's what I do.
Okay, along with that, There is a belief that there's different types of grays.
Oh, sure.
Tall, medium, and short. So
Absolutely.
the tall with the most sentience,
Absolutely.
and the little one being the robotic one, which is the one you're talking
Yes.
about. Okay.
Exactly. And the idea is that because of this, they have this amazing realm of technology, but they have no more creativity, Sev. So they don't know how to future apply their technology. They don't know how to make something new out of it.
The grays?
Yeah.
Oh,
the
I
little
don't
grays.
know. I don't know about the little grays.
The little
are just
grays.
robots.
Well, but that's just
So the
it.
tall grays have sentience to them.
Sure.
Yeah, and so
Yeah.
maybe they
It
know
was-
what
it-
they're doing.
Sure. But it was an interesting concept, the idea of they are using us and our creativity to help them find new
Yes.
application for
Yes,
their
yes, yes,
technology.
yes, that's
because they have engineered themselves to this point of a perfect race where they don't need competition, they don't need creativity. It's
And they told
not
me
what they're about.
They told me the reason the hybridization program is going on with the humans and the grays is because the grays did lose their ability to be sympathetic and empathetic.
Yeah. And let's get into the hybridization program real quick. We haven't really touched on that this episode, and I really should have, because I think there was somebody here that I interviewed that touch pointed on that in their presentation. Let's get into the concept of seeding society and seeding humanity with alien.
Okay, so I had a remarkable experience in Roswell a few years ago with my ex-partner. It was a shared experience. And I was given information about the hybridization program. A few years prior to that, I had an experience where I was shown a baby in a tube, floating in a tube.
Wow.
It was floating towards the top of the tube, and I was in this dark room, and I'm looking at this tube. Felt like it was glowing, and the baby's eyes were open, and they were the bluest eyes I have ever seen in my life. And I knew it was a boy, even though I couldn't see that physically. And I sensed behind me something, so I turned around, and there were 3 grays, tall, medium, and short. And they were really nice. And they said, "Oh, take your time. We're just going to stay back here. Just don't be in a hurry." So I turned back around, and I'm looking at this baby, and I'm very confused. I felt nothing for the baby. I'm like, what is going on? And then, ding, I find myself in my room. So in Roswell, had this experience, made contact. They reminded me of that baby in the tube, and then they gave me information about the hybridization program. And they said that millions of people are involved, and they have billions of embryos, and they're picking humans, for the most part, that are empathetic, sympathetic, wear their heart on their sleeve, and have strong psychic abilities. And these embryos will be used to reseed the earth if we annihilate ourselves. And they said, we're on that path, but it's not destined. This was a few years ago. They said, you're on that path, but you can change things. Now I'm wondering, is it too late? With what's happening with the Maui. What's going on in Maui just hurts me so much. I know. Maui is my most favorite place on earth. And Maui is considered the heart chakra of the world.
Yeah.
And it's on fire.
Yeah.
And even though people think, and I don't know, maybe it could be true. I have no theories. They're saying it was intentionally done and all that. But we cannot ignore the fact that Maui was dry. Now, how on earth can Maui, a lush island in the middle of the ocean, be dry?
Be drought dry.
And that's because of us.
Yeah. Well, and also very much so. A lot of the areas that caught fire were invasive grasses that were brought in for decoration, things like that aren't used to living on a volcano.
So
aren't used to that kind of climate, things like that. So yeah.
Other information that was given to an experiencer, she was shown an oil rig, and she was told every time you take oil out of earth, you are taking her blood.
Yep.
And she needs her blood.
That's interesting because I've been trying to find, and I'm trying to remember the researcher's name, but a long time ago, there was a full-on hypothesis to the fact that oil is a full-on renewable resource. Not that we should be burning it, but that it's like the blood of the earth. That's like saying that when you take a quart of blood from me, that I'm not going to make a quart of blood.
Right.
you know? And it is interesting to see. There was a scientific article that was just released a couple weeks ago that I posted where apparently our draw of groundwater from certain parts of the Earth has changed the spin of the Earth. Things like that. And granted,
the damage we're doing.
we are going through a massive change in the solar system to begin with. Polar ice caps on Mars are melting, things like that. There's a crazy solar cycle that we've never recorded burgeoning on us as we speak. But we definitely contribute to those cycles, and we have a full-on chance to stop that contribution.
Well, there's energy to everything.
Absolutely.
And so the energy of Earth radiates out into the cosmos, and it affects the other planets, the other star systems, the other beings there.
Sure.
And so we're like the bad boys of the galaxy. We're the troublemakers. We're the bad kids.
Why do we have to be the class clowns, Sev?
Yeah.
The distraction to ourselves and others.
Because we're in denial of the truth. As long as we do that, we're going to be troublemakers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And how do we begin that shift?
It's
Sev?
begun.
And I believe it's begun as well.
MUFON, these symposiums, Drush, even Congress is part of the awakening, believe it or not.
Oh, no, absolutely. And that is what I have been telling everybody who's been vehemently against and thinks that it's some sort of plot, all of it. It's like, man, the important thing is the conversation that has been opened.
Are you talking about some people thinking there are no ETs, there are no spaceships, they're making it up to try and deflect our attention from something else that's going on right now?
Yeah. That and even the idea of Project Bluebeam. There's never been a document found about Project Bluebeam or anything like that, but there has been floated for a long time the idea of Project Bluebeam, and that they will use technology, holograms, things like that to full-on fake an alien invasion, which will catalyze the religious right, thinking that it's the end of the world and bring about a whole means of control. A whole means of, we got to get a wrangle on this, folks.
Yeah, like a staged invasion that's going to go bad.
Yeah. And lead a bunch of people down a rabbit hole believing that something's happening that's not.
Exactly.
To cause a conflict.
A huge lie.
To cause a conflict that will let them be able to tie everything down and go, looks like we need to bootlace this up, folks.
Yeah, now we're going to go into another war with the cosmos.
Yeah. And that's been floated for a long time. I even had somebody...
Yeah.
I'll tell you off air, but I had somebody very, very deep involved with the UFO field many years ago. It was right up around the time that I asked you to come on the show the first time, Sev. About 5-6 years ago, that told me they no longer come on shows. They no longer do public appearances and speak. Too many of their friends have vanished or been hurt mysteriously. They fear for their family. And they fear for the fact that Project Bluebeam is alive and well, and that is where things are leading. This was 5 years ago, and that has stuck with me since. And I watch and I look, and I see some things happening that are pretty close. And could very easily precipice us to that point if we, as the populace at large, are not careful, and if we don't open our minds and our hearts to the truth and the reality. A lot of people could very easily be led down that razor's edge, sadly.
Yeah, well, I don't want to go backwards.
Me neither.
I'm hoping we don't go backwards.
Me neither. I hope we take huge, big leaps forward, like giant moon-sized leaps.
And you're part of that, your show.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you, Sev. That means a lot to me.
Important.
Even being here and being a part of this community in the way that I am a part of this community means a lot to me, because I like being able to, as you know, demystify things. I like to be able to have hard conversations that a lot of people don't like to have. So many people want to softball pitch these things or take it down their turn of what they believe. I try to remove my personal belief from it and look at it from all all facets of the gym.
That's wonderful.
You know, which is what we have to do. It's kind of like being in debate class. You got to be willing to accept the argument of the person on the other side of the debate to strengthen your own argument. Like
I
we said
remember
earlier,
debate in high
to
school.
bring it back to the beginning of the conversation. It's the fact of this either steals your faith in something or it steals it. It either makes it firmer or it takes it away from you when the experience happens.
Yes.
And it takes a lot for you to keep that faith, for you to keep positive about things. And, you know, MUFON is there to help, folks. That is exactly what people like Sev are here for. That is exactly what the Experiencer Resource Team is here for. Once again, to be that non-judgmental ear to the experiencer. And I want to thank you for all of the work that you do.
Thank you.
I know I've told you for so long, but you are one of the most amazing advocates that MUFON could have.
Oh, my goodness.
It is so beautiful to see somebody with your experiences and the experiences you've had, the changes you've had in your life, to be able to come to experiencers and lead them down that road. It's beautiful, and thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and always. Let everybody know where they can go to keep up with your work, where they can go to take your workshops, because you do amazing spiritual workshops, things like that. Let them, shameless self-promotion time as always, Sev.
Well, I have a book, You Have the Right to Talk to Aliens, which is on Amazon, and my website is planetsev.com, and I'm on YouTube, Alien Spirit, and Facebook and Instagram. I'm real easy to find.
Absolutely, and more than connectable. You, I don't think, even whenever I first contacted you, it was within a few minutes that you responded to me. You are more than affable when it comes to connecting with people and talking with people about their experience. So thank you once again for everything that you do, Sev.
Pleasure.
While you are online checking out everything from Sev Tok at her website as well as at MUFON.com, make sure to stop on by CuriousRealm.com. That is where you can go to find all the episodes to like, follow, subscribe, share. That is where you can go to find our links to MUFON. That's where you can go and find our experiencer form as well. If you have been an experiencer of the paranormal, ETs, UFOs, let us know your experience. Give us your evidence. We will present it to our experts like Sev and get you some answers. Stay tuned through this commercial break, folks. We will be right back with our final bit of coverage from MUFON Symposium 2023 in Covington, Kentucky, right after this.